So today we're talking about the last chance qualifier of OWCS happening in just a couple days' time. As the name suggests, it's the final tournament that offers a spot for the upcoming mid-season LAN tournament, otherwise known as the Esports World Cup. There's a lot at stake for a couple teams in particular here, and originally this did feel like a pretty exciting concept heading into this season. I mean, you got a lot of teams from all of the main regions who just missed the cut in their respective tournaments, all gunning for one final spot. Unfortunately, most of those teams decided not to accept an invite to this opportunity, so I'm mostly going over this tournament just to talk about the fate of Falcons and Zeta Division. Besides that, and maybe watching a few new faces, there's not much. The LCQ already felt pretty predictable thanks to these aforementioned Korean powerhouses, but now they'll likely face even less resistance on the way to an inevitable finals match. And that really sucks, cause they haven't played all that great recently, and there's reason to be very concerned about both of them, but there's no other real top level teams to be found to potentially upset them, or at least give us some additional entertaining matchups. This tournament is sorely lacking, and there's good reason. While it would be great to watch somebody like Sugarfree or Kevster get some more playtime in high-stakes environments, it feels like a waste of time, effort, and resources for the organizations themselves. To play in this tournament, you are required to fly out to Riyadh, and it's really expensive to fly a whole team anywhere. Most of these orgs just can't justify the expenses with no real rewards for their efforts, or at least it being a high risk. Between all the potential expenses and the prize pool not being all that good, why would you bother? 5 to 10 grand at most for your efforts? It's not worth it for them or the players. So as a result, most of the tournament spots have been claimed by random local teams, plus a few wildcards in the mix. This tournament is stupidly lopsided, and in terms of potential winners and good matches, we should be feeling pretty pessimistic. But nonetheless, we carry on. Here's a quick breakdown of how this tournament will work so you can keep track of the teams that interest you. Pause right here for a quick look at all the rosters. Again, not much, but this is what we're working with. In terms of the tournament format, it's going to be broken up into two sections. A double elimination group stage, followed by a single elimination 8-team tournament. The groups are as you'd expect. They're balanced to make sure that all relevant teams make it to the final 8. Falcons and Zeta have their own groups, and so does the freshly promoted EMEA Stage 3 team Vision, aka Violet and ChoiceOWL's new squad. Since there's only 14 teams that signed up, some groups are a bit heavier than others. Zeta and Falcons have only 3 teams per group, including themselves. They both just have to win one game to make it to the next round. Meanwhile, Violet's squad in Group C, as well as whoever makes it through Group D, will be part of groups of 4, and they'll have to win twice. There's simply way too many no-names here, and there's really no point in making any kind of bold claims or predictions, because again, it won't really matter in the end, so I'm not going to even bother with that part, and we're just going to move on to the playoffs, the part where things actually get more interesting on the 19th. The 2, or in some cases, for some of you out there, 3 teams that we really care about are going to go head-to-head in the next part in this single elimination tourney. Realistically, Vision, Zeta, and Falcons are the only 3 teams worth paying attention to in this thing. Let's break it down. In the result that things play out normally, where you expect every one of those teams to get first in their groups, Falcons and Zeta would be on track to play each other in the finals, naturally, since they're on the opposite sides of the bracket. And with Falcons doing worse in the Korea tournament, that means they are getting a somewhat more difficult path with a potential second round matchup against Vision. Realistically, Team Vision should probably get stomped in a matchup versus Falcons. Violet and ChoiceOWL are not ordinary players, and I like Slowdive as well on Hitscan, but there's levels to this thing. Team Vision were not some kind of world beater on their way to qualifying for OWCS in the upcoming stage. They actually lost a game in the Face It Master League tournament before eventually getting first place and making their way into that promo relegation. This is a big step up compared to some of those teams they were playing over in Face It League, you know? You're going up to the big leagues now. None of those teams were really worthy of making OWCS. They don't have a lot of practice against those types of teams, so I don't really know how they'll do in this situation. They've got some of the household names, but it may not be enough. They've dropped maps in even games where they shouldn't, and they've been really inconsistent. The synergy is nowhere near perfect, and while Violet is clutch still, he's definitely not in his prime at this point. And now here he is playing against not only former teammates, but also rivals on inarguably the worst team he has been a part of since joining the Overwatch League 6 years ago. I'm excited to watch this team play in EMEA. There's things I like about them. Violet can still be really good when needed. I like the DPS line, and I think the team generally functions well in a Orisa setup and everything, but they're just not LAN caliber, at least not yet anyhow, and so far their play would suggest it. At this point, you gotta hope that you not only clutch up, but you watch Falcons and Zeta explode before your very eyes to the point of no return. And even then, the talent discrepancy still may be insurmountable for this group. But there is no denying that both of the teams that they'll have to get through are more vulnerable than ever before. Falcons and Zeta Division played piss poor for their standards in Stage 2. A 5-3 stage out of both of them where they were firmly not top 3 rosters for the entire stage. That is really bad considering what we've known them for since the beginning of Korea in 2024. They were consistently worse than Crazy Raccoon, T1, and AGG. There's a major fall off going on. They've undergone significant changes, and they both have been struggling to find answers. The team garnering the most attention throughout this process, though, has certainly been Falcons by far. It was supposed to be an exciting time after acquiring merit in someone, but it's had the exact opposite effect so far. Since their signing, this team has completely fallen apart, both in terms of gameplay quality and their mental. Whatever's going on internally over there must be pretty crazy to have Proper take a multi-week leave of absence. They have really missed him. That flexibility and clutch factor and stable presence is just gone. Him and Stalker, from what we've seen, are inseparable. That's when this team plays the best. Bad things always happen when they're apart. And it's a bad time to be going through this because Falcons are tired, battered, bruised, and more unsure of themselves than ever, all while facing some crazy pressure to make the Esports World Cup. Anything short of that would be a serious slap in the face. And all that comes on top of the news that Stalker may not be playing either. It could be a translation thing, I'm not so sure, but in his own words, he does not think he will be playing in the LCQ, and possibly even the EWC if they make it there. He's completely unsure of his future with this team for the time being, and you can make an argument that Stalker has been the MVP of OWCS this year. Going on without him would be a major blow to Falcons and their chances of advancing. And what does that mean for their flex DPS situation? Is Proper coming back? Surely he has to if Stalker's not playing, right? Even if he does though, is he gonna be in playing shape with all that he's been going through recently? In a world with either a sub flex DPS or a weakened Proper plus all the other nonsense going on, how can we have some true confidence in this Falcons team right now? I don't know if we can do it. Without really knowing what's going on internally, Falcons to the fans feel absolutely cooked, and they've got to find some kind of second wind in right now, because the competition is very vulnerable. It's still doable despite what's happening. Zeta Division have been a tough foe for this team for years now. They've given them plenty of trouble, but they're not exactly in the best of places either, hence why Falcons need to try and get it together because there really is still a chance. Now, Zeta don't appear to be mentally boomed like Falcons seemingly are, but clearly their separation from Violet has been a great challenge that's just been very tough on them. The quality of play has certainly decreased with this team. There's been a drop-off, and I don't know if alphae is going to necessarily keep up in the clutch when it matters here. There's limitations with his play. The team just looks different. They drop maps to mid-teams all the time right now, and they almost always get rolled by anyone good. The effort in the Korea playoffs was almost laughable at times, with T1 and AGG embarrassing them. At least Falcons gave Crazy Raccoon a good fight before getting eliminated in round 1, you know? Zeta Division looked outclassed. I'd like to think they're still maybe in a decent spot though, with the Orisa setup and all, just because Bernard really is insane on that hero. Bernard has proven to be really strong on her historically, and overall, I think this team has less holes than Vision or Falcons, so there's some upside and some potential optimism to have if you're a Zeta fan. Don't get me wrong, I don't love this team right now. In fact, I'd probably pick against them if there was a good enough team, so they should consider themselves lucky. But in a tournament where everybody faces so much uncertainty, they're probably in a better spot than they should be. This tournament comes down to who booms and who doesn't. It's about avoiding the minefield more than anything else. Adequate quality of play is probably going to be enough unless a team like Falcons randomly unbooms mentally. The team in the best position right now, in my opinion, is Zeta. That's who I, and likely many of you, have winning this thing. It sadly feels like the obvious choice unless Falcons randomly figure it out, you know? They're gonna probably 3-1 or 3-2 Falcons in the finals, depending on how much these two teams suck. Zeta Division mostly have to worry about themselves. There's not a lot of outside forces to worry about. They just have to be concerned with refining their teamwork more than anything else and making sure that alphae gets more acquainted with the main support role. And the off time probably did them a lot of good in that regard, and I'd like to imagine some of the mistakes got cleaned up. Zeta just need to be consistent and they should be okay. There's so much less that can go wrong with them compared to Falcons. I mean, we don't even know who the hell is playing flex DPS for them this week. That's how bad it is. The mentality of that team is crazy suspect, and with all the nonsense going on, it's just difficult to say if they can put it all together. Everyone on the team is seemingly being affected by whatever's going on, and that's no good. Bad play, bad morale, and inconsistent lineups is asking for disaster. From the perspective of the fan, a lot of the signs indicate that the LCQ is just not the priority for Falcons right now. They are falling apart, and this tournament could end up causing even more damage. It's really hard to play well when you have so many outside forces just completely distracting you from getting in the zone. I'm locking in Zeta Division to win, with Falcons and Vision rounding out the top three. Zeta is going to book their tickets to the Esports World Cup in just a couple weeks' time. It's kind of hard to argue anything else right now, I feel. It would be really funny if, like, Vision somehow made the finals because Falcons are that boomed, but something tells me even a boomed Falcons should be able to beat them. It would take a godly performance from everyone on Vision to make it happen. I mean, Violet's got to channel in his inner MVP level gameplay from the Overwatch League days. Choi's got to unleash prime 2022 charge form. Slow Dive has to be a really good complementary piece. They have to lock in like crazy. This is going to be such a good challenge to see where they stand, but realistically, they're gonna lose. It should be Falcons versus Zeta, and it's up to you to take your pick. But that's pretty much all I have to say about the LCQ. I wish there was more to look forward to, but there's only a few good and relevant storylines for that matter. For the most part, this feels pretty straightforward, and there's not much else to say. Let's just keep our expectations low and hope for the best. And until then, stay tuned for an Esports World Cup video. It's coming soon, guys. Peace.